Hello, and welcome back to the Out There Pod, where we delve into the depths of the unexplained, the mysterious, and the downright bizarre. I'm Rachel, and joining me today is my co host, Michael. How are you doing, Michael?
Hi, Rachel. I'm doing great, thanks for asking. Today's topic is one of the most chilling and controversial in the realm of government conspiracies, so I'm eager to dive into it.
That's right. Today we are talking about the CIA project, MKUltra. Starting in the 1950s as part of the government's Cold War weapons research, Project Bluebird, renamed Project Artichoke, renamed Project MKUltra, explored the use of LSD for mind control and manipulation. How insane is this?
It's truly mind boggling. The fact that the government conducted such extensive and unethical experiments on unwitting subjects is almost unbelievable. The sheer scale of MKUltra and its various subprojects, along with the secrecy and deception involved, makes it one of the most shocking programs in our history. It's a stark reminder of what can happen when power goes unchecked.
We'll talk about the levels of secrecy and some of the side projects of the MKUltra program. But what about the fact that the project itself changed names so many times? Isn't that a red flag in itself that the government was trying to hide something?
Absolutely. It's a classic tactic to obscure the true nature of a program and avoid detection. By constantly rebranding and shifting focus, they could keep the project under wraps and make it harder for anyone, even within the government, to track what was really going on. It's a clear sign that they knew the ethical boundaries they were crossing and were trying to cover their tracks.
I have heard about other programs, such as the Stargate project, which have changed hands between different government agencies. Those programs technically end and are restarted under a new name within the new agency. But it wasn't like that with MKUltra, right? This project was controlled by the CIA at the direction of the President of the United States from day one.
That's correct. Unlike other programs, MKUltra was a CIA operation from the beginning, initiated under direct orders from the highest levels of government. This central control by the CIA and the presidential directive underscored just how important and secretive the project was. It wasn't just a rogue operation, it had significant backing and oversight, which makes the experiments even more troubling.
And they definitely were troubling. Let's talk first about the government worker, Frank Olson. I can't think of any justification for what the government did to that guy. Can you sum up the story about how he ended up being a subject of CIA experimentation?
Frank Olson's story is a disturbing chapter in CIA history. Olson was a biochemist working for the CIA, involved in biological warfare research. In 1953, he was covertly dosed with LSD by his colleagues during a retreat, without his knowledge or consent. Following the incident, Olson experienced severe psychological distress and paranoia. Just 9 days later, he fell to his death from a hotel window in New York City under very suspicious circumstances.
And this is where the fear-mongering that our government does becomes an important part of their control matrix. When I look at an example like this, I can't help thinking that someone would have to be absolutely insane to join the CIA knowing what we know. Not to mention all the things that we don't know. But no matter how much people talk about the government being broken, most are afraid to do anything about it.
It's a grim reality. The climate of fear they created not only kept people in line but also discouraged whistleblowers and those who might challenge the status quo. This kind of control extends far beyond just the CIA, permeating various facets of government and society. It underscores the importance of transparency, accountability, and vigilance in safeguarding our freedoms and ethical standards.
We do have to be vigilant. If we were able to uncover current projects being conducted by the government that impede on our rights as citizens, that would obviously have a much bigger impact than these declassified reports that are often redacted and always released years after anyone could do anything about it.
If we could uncover and address contemporary projects in real time, we would have a much better chance of preventing abuses of power and protecting our civil liberties. This means not just relying on declassified documents, but also supporting investigative journalism, whistleblowers, and transparency initiatives that shine a light on what's happening behind closed doors.
And isn't that what the church committee hearings tried to do in 1975? Or were the projects that they were investigating already closed by that time? Because that committee obviously had intelligence agencies on their heels.
While some of the projects they scrutinized, like MKUltra, had already been officially terminated, the hearings revealed the extent of these programs and the lack of oversight that had allowed them to operate unchecked for decades. That did lead to important reforms and greater oversight of intelligence activities.
Okay, before we go too far down that path, I want to talk about another MKUltra project, Midnight Climax. It is bad enough that the CIA gave their own employees LSD and other drugs without consent. They hide in the shadows and avoid oversight. But Midnight Climax is really depraved. Everything about it. Why don't you summarize for the listeners what they did in Midnight Climax?
Essentially, the CIA set up brothels in San Francisco, where unsuspecting individuals were lured and then drugged with LSD without their knowledge. The aim was to observe the effects of LSD and to study the potential for using drugs in interrogations and mind control. Agents would secretly watch through one-way mirrors and record the subject's reactions.
So these guys in the CIA, these old men with power, they take a look at their female agents. I don't know how many women even worked for the CIA back then.
Not many.
Right, but they take a look at the women and they pick out the ones that they want to train to be undercover prostitutes. And I understand that this may be something that happens with undercover agents. If SVU is any indication, it happens a lot, but that's bad enough. Then they take them to a brothel in San Francisco and put them in a room with a horny stranger on high amounts of LSD. The victims, in my opinion, aren't just the men who were drugged, but also these women who were watched through a one-way mirror. They signed up to defend their country, not to sexually humiliate themselves in front of their male superiors.
There is just no justification for it.
And although it wouldn't be okay to do to anyone, we can't forget that this was all done in a U.S. city to U.S. citizens. Are there any other projects under MKUltra that we should talk about before we move on?
One notable project under MKUltra was Project MKDelta, which focused on developing ways to use biological and chemical materials for clandestine operations. It involved researching substances that could be used for assassination, interrogation, and mind control purposes. The details of MKDelta, like many MKUltra subprojects, highlight the extreme lengths the CIA was willing to go in pursuit of intelligence and control.
And less is known about MKDelta than MKUltra, probably because of Dormouse, which we'll talk about in a minute. Are there any assassinations during the Cold War that could be attributed to MKDelta? And are we talking about foreign assassinations or domestic assassinations?
There are indications that the project explored methods for both foreign and domestic operations, aiming to enhance the CIA's capabilities in covert actions. While specific assassinations directly attributed to MKDelta remain unconfirmed, the project's focus on clandestine operations suggests a broad scope of potential applications.
Well, of course, they haven't been confirmed. Important disclaimer, but are there any deaths during the time that MKDelta is known to have been in operation that theorists attribute to the government's chemical or biological assassination techniques?
There have been numerous deaths that theorists attribute to the government's covert operations. These deaths often occurred under suspicious circumstances. The challenge lies in distinguishing between natural causes, accidents, and deliberate actions orchestrated by intelligence agencies.
It seems like that would be less of a challenge in a country of the people, by the people, for the people. So now let's talk about Dormouse. That is the government operation that was conceived specifically to destroy documents relating to MKUltra, MKDelta, Midnight Climax, and all the many things that the Church Committee hearings were investigating. If the whole point was to destroy information, why did they form an official project with a catchy name and keep a record of what they were doing?
It's perplexing, Rachel. The existence of Dormouse seems contradictory. This dual approach reflects the complexities of government operations, where secrecy and accountability often clash. It also underscores the challenges faced by those seeking transparency and accountability in matters of national security and covert operations.
Or, like with the Roswell incident, the transparency could be the cover-up. They put on the appearance of transparency as a distraction to keep people from searching for the real truth. A truth that they may not even know, but that they fear would topple their systems of power. What would happen if we really knew what landed in Roswell, or if we knew the potential uses of psychedelic drugs or extrasensory perception?
It's a compelling point. If the public were to truly understand the full scope of what happened at Roswell, or the capabilities unlocked by psychedelics and ESP, it could revolutionize our understanding of science, consciousness, and even reality itself.
So, to wrap up, the CIA started a project in the 1950s to research mind control and biological weapons. They were dosing people without consent in a project originally called Project Bluebird, then Project Artichoke, then eventually Project MKUltra, with several subprojects including assassination and prostitution under catchy names like MK Delta and Midnight Climax. Then, because they took such great notes on their illicit activities over the years, the CIA launched another project with the cutest name of all, Dormouse, to find and destroy documents because they were about to be in trouble with a congressional committee. Is that basically it?
You've got it, Rachel. It's a deeply troubling story of governmental overreach and abuse of power. The layers of secrecy, the ethical violations, and the sheer audacity of these projects are staggering.
So, what do you think, Michael? Did they actually close operations in MKUltra? Or did it get renamed, maybe brought in under a new agency and revamped to be better at hiding what they're doing?
Given the history, it's hard to say. Officially, MKUltra was shut down in the 1970s, but it's entirely possible that similar operations continued under different names or within other agencies. We may never know the full extent, but the pattern of secrecy and evasion suggests that the government could still be engaging in similar activities today.
And it's this quest for answers that drives our fascination with government cover-ups and other mysteries. As we continue to sift through the evidence and unravel the tangled web of speculation and intrigue, one thing remains certain: the truth is out there, waiting to be discovered.
Well said, Rachel. And with that, we'll wrap up today's discussion. We hope you've enjoyed listening, and as always, we encourage you to keep questioning, exploring, and keeping an open mind.
And if you have any thoughts or experiences related to government cover-ups or conspiracy theories you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious and don't believe everything you see. Goodbye for now.